Hey folks, today we're going to aquascape this tiny little aquarium with a Wabi Kusa ball from purelyaquatic.com and all this other stuff. Stick around. Hey YouTube, this is Pecktec. Not too long ago, purelyaquatic.com got in touch with me and said that they'd like to send me a Wabi Kusa ball and have me do something creative with it. And that is the inspiration for today's video. So Danny sent me one of these Wabi Kusa balls. Danny's a fellow YouTuber. If you haven't checked out his stuff, it's really great. He's got some really good quality stuff. Definitely worth your time to check it out. I'll have a link in the description below, but that's him. He also does videos on this channel. This is his company, and he makes these balls and sends them out. And we're going to open one and just kind of check it out. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Wabi Kusa. Now, there are a couple of schools of thought on Wabi Kusa. I'm by no means an expert. I just did some Googling like anybody else would do. And I watched the videos that he put out. Now, the way he has this really cool waterfall aquarium. So the water kind of comes into the top and it cascades down. So these balls are sort of just balls of substrate. And you can put the plants in and grow them. So they hold the moisture really super well. So you can take plants that are normally, submerged and kind of grow them immersed a little bit, They take a little bit of training. You got to get the leaves to where they're able to accept, that type of growth. And because of that, usually you would cover it and keep it all, just to make sure the leaves stay really moist at all times. The other way I've seen it used, if you go to the ADA YouTube page, what they would do is they would sort of pre-grow the plants on these little pallets, these little Wabi Kusa. They call them balls, but they're kind of flat, right? And they would pre-grow the plant, so it was almost like laying down sod. I don't know if you've ever seen somebody build a new house and they throw the sod down, so all the grass is kind of grown and they just has this thin layer. Well, they do the Wabi Kusa balls that way. And I thought that was interesting because it sort of brings the substrate up out of the base of the aquarium and then kind of up into these little areas and nooks and crannies and rocks and that sort of thing. And I think that's the way I'm going to use my Wabi Kusa ball. Incidentally, I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. So anyway, let's open this package and see what a Wabi Kusa ball actually looks like. Oh yeah. It's very tightly wrapped. Son of a bitch. Alright. Came in this nice little box. These peanuts. These peanuts, we also call them the devil's poop. Neat little box here. I asked for the small. They come in all these different sizes. I asked for a small one. So I wasn't sure what I would do with it. Oh, look inside here. It comes with some twine that we could use to tie some moss to this thing. And it looks like some of those homemade fertilizer tabs. And looking further inside, pull this out, and here's the ball. Ah, pretty neat. Just a little ball of dirt. A little ball of dirt, just for me. Oh, it's actually a little bigger than I thought it would be. It's kind of large. Okay. Wow, it feels really thick. Also, wow, it's like a rock. I mean, it's really hard, like a baseball. Interesting. Okay. That was not quite what I thought it would be. These Wabi Kusa balls are sun-dried, and they'll be out in the sun for a couple of days before they're sent to you. So they're nice and dry, and what you want to do now is soak it. Now this small one, it says you can soak for 15 to 20 minutes. So let's get that ball rolling right now. What I'm going to do is take some of this dragon stone out of here. Which I just washed off. Got it ready to go. This looks like a mud baseball or something. Alright. See how much water I can get in here. The instructions said you don't want it to get too mushy. So apparently you can get it to where it's too much of a big mushy mess. You don't want that. Good news is it doesn't float. Can't quite submerge it all, but maybe that'll work. Let's kind of clear off this mess. Oh, let's talk about some of the other stuff that we're going to use. I've got a little bit of Amazonia left. Boy, I'm milking this bag for all it's worth. I've got the Cascade 20. This is a small little filter I'm going to put on this thing. It's just a tiny little filter. Got a little bit of spiderwood. Spiderwood's a root, and it's really neat. I've got a video all about it. I got this thing because I thought it was really neat. Maybe to grow some moss, or if I want to put something else in there. These were just kind of a cool little thing. I'm going to open it up and see what it's like. I may or may not actually include it in here. I might put it in there or something else, but I'm going to check it out. I've got a number of different little plant cultures. I've got some different types of moss and this stuff, which is some sort of like, I don't know, pennywort or something like that. The scale of this might be too much for this little tank, but I guess we'll have to see. Oh, and I got this little thing, because I love little things. I thought it might be fun to add. Little whimsy. Little whimsy never hurt anybody. Now that we've had a look at everything, let's pull this stuff off. All the stuff I'm not using yet. This is a tiny little tank. I'm not even sure the size of it. I'd say a gallon, maybe half a gallon. This is a tiny little tank by upaqua.com. And they've got a sticker on here I'm going to peel off for artistic purposes. So it should be fun to play in. It's not something, I don't know if I would put a fish in here or not. You could probably make a betta pretty happy. It doesn't have a lid or anything. I'm going to just think of this as sort of a small aquatic garden and not worry so much about a fish or anything going in it. This is just an aquascape for fun, okay? Where are you, cup? Where's my cup? Cup! Where else would it be? Alright, cup in hand. A whole lot of people suggested that I soak this first. It's probably not a bad idea, but I'm not going to do it. Not gonna do it! So I kind of like to play with this dry. I've also got this driftwood. One cool thing I saw someone do is they took their Wabi Kusa and they jammed it in a driftwood, almost like a tripod. And they just had these tripod-y legs out with a Wabi Kusa ball stuck in the middle and then plants growing all over it. That was really way cool. And I thought about trying to do something like that to skewer it on the end and just... Still super hard. We'll keep soaking it while we play with these rocks. But let's test fit this thing here. So it's going to go on the top, right there somewhere. That's kind of cool. The minute this evaporates though, that's going to be right back down in the water. Maybe I could do that a little bit lower. Oh, you know, that makes like a nice little, it's got a nice little area for that thing to set in there. I think that would look kind of neat. Let me rethink this for a second. And once again, my goal is not to have one that's like right on top of the water with the plants growing out. I want mine to be actually in the water. I like it to be in the water and kind of be like substrate above the substrate. That's what I'm going for. This would be kind of a nice center, off center for it. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Alright. This is still hard. Hard as a rock. I'm going to put you back in the water. You soak that up, buddy. I've left a gap in the back to hide the intake for the filter. So it's always a good idea to go ahead and pull out your filter and see how you're doing. Sorry about that, my mic's battery, the battery in my mic went off. I'm not sure when, but that's all fixed now. Another unboxing. Whoa. This is the Cascade 20. Who makes this? This is the Pecktec Cascade 20. We're gonna take a quick look inside. All right. Hey, instructions. All right. And here it is. It's a pretty standard hang on the back filter. It's got this little thing and a little tiny intake here. Definitely made for nano aquariums. Just taking a look at it, see how everything looks here. Looks good. It goes right into the dirt. Okay, can I make this smaller somehow? Oh, look at that. Yes. So you can make this smaller. I had a little spacer there. I took that out. Try again. Not bad. I'll put the flow of water right over the top of that rock. Put this thing back together somewhat. These little filters always come with these little cartridges, you know, and they charge you out the wazoo to replace them. But the first thing I usually do is look at it and try to figure out a way to just make my own out of there. I think this will be really easy. What I plan on doing, I'm going to let this, I'll use this, you know, to start it off with. Then I'm going to rip this stuff off. Looks like it's got carbon like jammed in there. That does you very little good. Anyway, I'm going to rip this off and I'll probably just take some like regular filter floss and rubber band it to there or attach it in some other way and just stick it back in here. Or not use this at all and jam this full of filter floss or something else. So don't worry about not being able to get the cartridges later, but definitely keep the plastic little parts if it fits in somewhere mechanically, like with notches and stuff. Definitely keep the plastic part in case you want to make your own later on down the road. This little thing I saw on Amazon, and it's a little tiny cup. It's like a little suction cup, and it's sort of like those little planters like you would use in your house, you know, you hang a planter down or something like that. Well, this has a suction cup, which I think goes on this side. And this goes up inside of here, and it makes like a little planter you can put inside of your aquarium. So you could like stick some moss, maybe in a little tiny rock. Ooh, I had a tiny rock a second ago. So you can stick some moss in there and maybe a little tiny rock and just adhere it to the inside of your aquarium like that and grow a little plant or something inside. It's pretty neat. I thought this might work with the Wabi Kusa ball, but you know, those things are kind of large. You could, in theory, if you want to add another plant or something, you could suction cup it right there on the inside and grow something else. So I think I'll do that later. Okay, that looks like it'll hold it pretty steady. These two rocks kind of got it wedged right there, taking all the weight. Plenty of room in the front to scrape. A little bit of room for evaporation. This thing seems pretty hard. I don't know. I'm going to soak it a little bit more. I saw one website that said to soak it overnight. It wasn't this brand, it was another. Someone else's Wabi Kusas. Wabi Kusas. Looking at the FAQ on the website, they said that these, you can add one of these after 6 months. Apparently you can just kind of cut this ball open and insert it in there. So I won't need it now, but I do need the string. So I'm going to grab, kind of split that open, and this is still nice and sealed. Ah, I did it. We will be tying the moss on there. I think I'm going to do a preemptive spritz. Wet down a little bit. I'm going to wrap this Wabi Kusa up. Alright, so now we need to play with the Wabi Kusa ball a little bit. So I'm going to set this aside. Right here. This has been soaking for, I'd say, about an hour or so. Still seems really super hard, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, because wrapping moss around the outside of it shouldn't mess anything up. Quite a long piece of wire. Let's get it all straightened out. Not wire, it's thread. This tissue culture plant is a weeping moss. Let's take a look at it. A lot of these I've never seen before, so I don't even know if they'll grow in one of my setups or not. Interesting. Ooh. What I'll do is I'll just wash this gel pack off right there. I'll wipe that gel off the bottom of it. What I think I'm going to do, it looks a little dead at the bottom, I'm going to pull that out. Getting some good stuff too, I think mostly bad. I don't want to start off with any brown stuff in there if I can help it. There's quite a bit at the bottom of this, which is probably normal. I like to just randomly insert moss into the aquarium and let's see where it ends up. Okay, alright, so I've got the some moss here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to cover as much of this as I can, and I won't be able to just this one little pot of this stuff. But I'm going to mix a couple of different kind of mosses in. I think that'll look interesting. What I'll do is I'll get this on there and I'm going to give it a couple of wraps here and there just to kind of get the ball rolling, so to speak. Okay, back in the water you go. We get some more moss out of here. I actually bought some moss just for this project a while back, and I didn't want it to die out, so I threw it in there. So here's a little bit more. And this next one that I'm using, this is just plain Java moss. I'm going to put it kind of towards the bottom here. I'm starting to run out of string. Okay, let me back up a little bit. I think I'm doing this right. Alright, so I've covered this ball with moss and I've tied it off, at least on one side there. It's not completely covered, but the bottom of it I'll probably just leave open since I don't have a ton of moss to throw on here. I'll probably just clip that extra piece off in just a second. Let me take a look around. Yeah, it could be better. Let's see what that looks like inside. I don't know. That could look pretty epic eventually. To wait and see how it grows. Ha! That's pretty cool though. Alright, I like it again. Alright, I'm going to let that soak a little bit longer, and with the moss attached, what we'll do is maybe add these other plants and other areas on here. Gently moving you aside. I opened up this flame moss, and that's a really interesting plant. I cleaned off the gelatin off the bottom. Now I'm just going to trim off this brown part. I'm going to hold it upside down, just kind of give it a reverse haircut here at the base. I assume this is what I should do. I've never had flame moss before. It's not necessarily readily available. I'm really curious about this, and the guy at the store said that they don't get it very often, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, okay, remember that little cup from earlier? It has this like hooking mechanism right here, so I'm going to take this stuff and sort of hook it in to this cup. You see that? Right underneath there, there's a hook. So I can just kind of push this stuff down in there, like that, and hook it in place, and hopefully I can grow some more of this. Because that would be just way cool. Yep. I can even add a little bit of dragonstone and do kind of aquascape within an aquascape. Look at that. Let's get this out of the way. There we go. So, it'd be cool to see what happens with that. I'm going to put that right up here in the top. What was I doing? Oh yes, I was aquascaping this aquarium. Okay, I'm not sure what's going to work out best for this flame moss. I'm going to try to actually plant it down here, over here. What I would think you should do is maybe wrap it around, jam it in some corners, or maybe wrap it around a branch or something like that. And all of those might be smarter ways to do this, but I'm just going to try a bunch of different ways, so I don't have this tiny little amount. I'm just going to put it all over the place, a couple of different scenarios, some lighter places, some darker places, in the ground, out of the ground. I'm going to try and mostly keep it over here so that it doesn't take away from the big ball of moss that's going to be over that way. In fact, I'd like to stick a little bit in there too. Alright, I think I'm going to go ahead and put the Wabi Kusa ball in there and start working around that. Try to take this kind of bald spot, point it towards the bottom. Now what I saw in the video is you could pierce these things and plant things inside of them. Well, it looks like you can actually do that. It's crunchy in there. See if I can jam this right in the top of this thing. Huh. Yeah. You can. Okay, that's pretty neat. All right, I've got this other stuff. I'm not too sure about it though. The scale of it could be just all wrong for this tank, but I'm going to go ahead and put some in just for fun, just to see how it grows, see what it does, see if it grows at all or just dies away. Sometimes these things are hard. It's hard to tell how they're oriented. Is up, down? What's going on? Up is down and down is up. Well, this stuff is hard to plant. Like maybe if the whole thing was healthy, I'd just jam it all in there. If there's some dead parts in there I don't want. It feels like I'm plucking it all the way apart. This looks like it's just sort of a vine. I want to jam it in the back as much as I can and see if it kind of grows up over the top of these rocks. Probably can't see this too well because the ball's now blocking it, but what I'm going to do, this is the back of the aquarium. And what I'm doing now is I'm taking these plants that I suspect are going to grow a little bit taller. They're sort of viney and stuff. So I'm placing them all the way through the back so that they can kind of just pop over later after they grow up a bit. I'm having a hard time with these two. These seem to be easier to kind of like bunch into a ball and jam them into place. Get them oriented and maybe they'll stay in there. Let's go ahead and add some water just to see what it does. I want to jam one of these things in the Wabi Kusa ball too. I'm taking a couple of these smaller leaves and I'm actually moving them between the twine a little bit. I'll use the tub that some of the plants came in to diffuse the water and see if that works. Hope it works. Going a little fast here, but the plan is to let this sit for a few days and then show you guys. So to be honest, I'm more tired than I am worried about cloudy water. Get her done. After a couple of weeks went by, I decided I wanted to try and plant some plants into the top of the Wabi Kusa ball. I have this lid here that I actually made myself just to kind of keep the evaporation from getting out of hand. I pulled the Wabi Kusa ball out and knowing ahead of time that I was going to try to plant some more plants in there, I'd thrown a couple of little plants from other aquariums inside the tank, so I pulled those out too and pulled everything over to the table to try to plant them inside the ball. I have this cryptocore. I have cryptocore all over my tank, so I decided to grab some of that and put it in here. And I grabbed another kind of random plant that I had sitting around. I actually can't remember the name of it. It wasn't doing too well. but I thought I'd jam it in there anyway. That's that red plant, just to kind of see how it does. If you know the name of that plant, if you can identify this dead plant, go ahead and leave a comment down below. I also tried some dwarf hair grass in places, and I basically would just puncture the ball, jam the stuff in there the best I can, and then just sort of pinch it shut. It is really soft at this point, and it ended up looking pretty nice over the course of several days. The stuff that I planted did melt away, but it's kind of just barely started to grow back, or a couple of leaves survived. The stuff in the back's doing really super well too. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this, but the ball just occupies so much visual area inside of this tank, so I might have to do something about that. Okay, so it's been a few weeks and the tiny tank actually looks kind of neat. It's not really bothering me much at all, but I do want to change it up. See, it looks a little too bulky and crowded right there. I really want to see those cool rocks, and I think I'd like to keep that aquascape, but I want to just move the Wabi Kusa out and put it into something else that'd be really cool and kind of specifically meant for that. Now, I went digging around my garage to see what other tanks I had sitting around. It turns out I have the original Fluval Spec, the very first Fluval Spec that I bought and did one of my earliest videos, fish videos. And the first video I think that I made that was sort of like, you know, it had opening music and a title and all those sort of things. So it was kind of one of my first videos. When I went with the Fluval Spec, I noticed it has this lid with a hole right in the top. And I think what would be really neat is if somehow you could fashion like a little basket or something. You could probably hang that Wabi Kusa right off the top of that and then cap it off, you know, to keep it from drying out and stuff. That'd be pretty neat. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, but what I do want to do is build some sort of a tripod or a platform. I saw an aquascape when I first started doing research for this that really super impressed me, and they had basically built this sort of like little stand out of driftwood. It was a really, really nice way to display it. They didn't have just the perfect quintessential piece of spiderwood that I was looking for at my store, but I did find these 3 small ones, which when I combine them, kind of makes sort of an interesting little platform. And they have just the right little nooks and crannies to where I think I could build a really interesting stand. What I'm going to use to do that is this super glue. Now this is actually made by Seachem, and but it is super glue. I mean, it basically is just super glue. So you can buy this stuff or you can get super glue. I got this in the first My Aquarium box, and I hadn't had a chance to use that yet. So I'm going to glue some of these together into an interesting little stand. And I'm also going to replace the light. Now, the light that I originally had on this spec is actually on the small tank now. So I went and got another light, and this is sort of overkill, but this has become one of my favorite little nano lights. It is a compact fluorescent, so it's not quite as high-tech as in the LEDs or anything, but I don't really use the blue lights. Oh, and in fact, I got 2 of these, and I replaced the light on the brand new spec with one of these. The blue to white light ratio, I think on the smaller spec, is just not that great. It's way too blue for me. In my personal taste. It was bright and it was growing plants okay, but it was just way brighter than I liked, or is way bluer than I liked. Now the spec 5-gallon downstairs, the new light on that looks great, and I think that light is fantastic. But I really love these. I really love the color of these. They grow plants, you know, really well. So I'm going to put one of these on this tiny spec, and I'm pretty sure that Wabi Kusa will have plenty of light to grow. Alright, so here's my old spec. I've cleaned it up quite a bit. Still not perfect, but that's fine. And I'm just going to experiment with some ways to build this thing. I need height and some stability, but without touching the sides. I need a nice place for this Wabi Kusa to sit. I do have some twine that will come in handy for, you know, tying it off, and this is just thread, you know. Let's see. That's sort of a tripod-y look. Alright. Nobody's gonna want to sit and watch this. The mega. Let's megascape this thing. See that pile of sticks? Mega. Yeah. Alright. Yeah. Yeah, that'll probably work. Main goal is just to keep it away from the sides, which it's kind of doing. Keep it away from the sides, put that ball right up to the middle of the lid there, so it can just grow right out eventually, hopefully over time. I think at the very beginning I'll be doing good to get it just to crest the water. That's the real goal, is get that plant to grow out of the water naturally, and then slowly bring the water level down either through this tank or another tank. I'm making kind of a big fuss over this Wabi Kusa, but of course that's just me. You can put this in a bowl with just like a little bit of water and some decorative rocks and that sort of thing, cover it up and mist it to make sure it's treated really well. I'm just afraid I'm not going to be able to do that, and I don't want to commit to that. So what I wanted to do is just try another method, which is just to actually let the plant grow out, you know, and then slowly bring the water level down. See if I can train the plant to do that without like having to give it a whole lot of extra attention. I'm not sure if that'll work or not, but we're gonna see. So what I'm gonna do now, I've got the form kind of the way I want it. It'd be really cool if this works. I've never tried this before. You know, you spend a lot of time looking for that perfect piece of driftwood. I don't usually think about going in and just making my own out of several other pieces. But the big piece of driftwood like this, at my store at least, was almost $20. And all the small pieces were $6, so kind of take a look. I really should have pulled the ball out and done a test fit with that too, but I think that's going to be awesome. If nothing else, I could tie that Wabi Kusa ball right down to the middle if I needed to, so yeah. It is really easy to glue your fingers together. Trust me, I know. Alright. There's my little experimental podium for the Wabi Kusa. Wabi Kusa will be right here. Gosh, this might be too tall. We'll be looking at the bottom of it, probably. That's alright. I'll only get it up out of the water, so that's good. Alright, I'm going to start with a couple of cups of gravel here. Of course, I can't be bothered to rinse any of this out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cup of plain gravel, and a cup of this stuff called Floramax. I'm going to mix generously. It's a nice looking little substrate.
Now while the glue cures on the little driftwood stand that I made, I decided to go ahead and pull out that Wabi Kusa ball and go ahead and rescape this little tank. I thought this was a cute little tank, and I bought this plant. It's a plant I've never tried before. I thought I'd throw it in the bottom there and just kind of see how it does. It's great to have little tanks like this just to kind of experiment with. There's not a lot of pressure to put some fish in something like this, maybe a shrimp or something like that, but I just thought I'd rescape it just to kind of have it around. It's just kind of fun.
I've got the other tank rescaped. I just did a quick add of some plants and gravel, and I'm going to let it just sit. So I've got the glue. The glue is drying on the driftwood over there, and I'm about to start aquascaping this. This has got a little bit ways to go, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and put some plants in the bottom of here. I'll be using these again. I've got two pots, one to put in each of these tanks, just kind of give these plants a try. What's nice about that other tank is that if I don't plan on putting any fish in it or anything like that, then basically it's just a place to grow these plants. So that's kind of cool. Alright. I have a lot of little gardens like that, just like little places where I just grow plants. It doesn't really do much else. Doesn't do much with fish. It's mostly just growing plants. What was unusual about these is they don't seem to have any kind of gel or anything. Now, I don't want to put any of this in my water. But, wow. This is a nice tight little plug of these things. I'm just going to I want to try something here. See if I can pull this apart. Can't remember exactly where the stuff's going to stand, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can just do a real simplistic half moon. Of course, I'm doing this dry. I'll have to add some water here in just a second. Just gonna do a little bit of something real simple down at the bottom. I have no idea what this plant will do. Like, I looked it up, but I didn't look it up super thoroughly to see what was up with it. So we'll see. All right. Something on top just to kind of make sure it stays down. I add water back in. Ooh, that's a little too tall. Probably should have tested it out with the Wabi Kusa. Now, if it did want it to actually come up out of the water, though. Oh, so close. It's like right there. Okay. Alright, and here's sort of a dry first look at this tank. This is really unusual. As you can see, I've got it coming out the top. So the Wabi Kusa ball will be immersed here at the very top, but we'll have a portion of itself underwater to keep absorbing water. And I've got some plants I placed the plants in the bottom really carefully, and then I pulled them all out as I moved this ball into place so it could just kind of be perfectly sitting right there at the hole at the top of this thing. I could even keep it lid off and it might look a little neater, but I think to help keep it dry, or to help keep it moist, especially in the beginning as I'm training some of these mosses and other plants in here. There's tiny little plants in here. As I train these to become immersed, then I'll just kind of leave this lid on to help keep that thing where it needs to be. Alright, so I'm going to add some water and we'll take a look. Okay folks, there you go. That is a really strange aquascape. Alright, so I've got it coming out the top now, and we'll see if I'm able to grow some plants that way. And incidentally, some of these tissue culture plants came with these little cups, and what I'll probably do is just set it right here like a little hat. And keep that nice and moist underneath there. What do we say? That could work. I'm going to let this grow as an experiment. I'm going to kind of put it off to the side and let it grow, and we'll come back and we'll take a look and we'll see. Again, still not exactly probably probably not the best example of a Wabi Kusa aquascape, but it's still, I think, pretty interesting. If this starts to grow, really neat to see. It'd be kind of neat to see this. I could always extend this light up some and have a big plant coming just out the top of this thing. Would be really cool. And folks, that's all I have for you today. Follow your bliss. Make yourself a Wabi Kusa ball. Have a great week. I'll see you soon. I have a nose hair. Freaking nose hair is tickling the shit out of me. Alright. Looks like good, thick, premium black thread. We spared no expense. Best thread you can have. Since I am doing that, I want to pull this out a little bit. Oh, I'm not recording sound, God damn it. This is the Pecktec. Wabi Kusa. Wabi Kusa. Wabi Kusa indeed. That is a question that should go unanswered. The first thing you want to do when you get your Wabi Kusa ball is not keep it in a box for several weeks to do an unboxing, but actually soak it. You need to soak it in water.